introduction. Yeah. Thank you very much. And it's my great honor to be here today to do my presentation, to share with you part of what we are doing in Vietnam with regards to foreign languages education. And thank you very much for allowing me to do the final presentation of the whole conference. Yeah, it's a great honor. And say hello from me, from my friends in Vietnam, to all of you here and the online friends. Thank you very much. Okay. And my presentation today is about assessment design for English language teaching in Vietnam, and assessment design as an overall design. Yeah, not just only the particular design of an instrument, for example. Yeah. And my presentation covers a little bit about the National Foreign Languages Project of Vietnam, the Vietnam Framework of Reference for Foreign Language Competences, the CEFR-VN, and the assessment design for English language teaching in Vietnam. Okay, so allow me to have a few minutes to say with you about the National Foreign Languages Project of Vietnam, the NFLP. NFLP is the government of Vietnam's initiative to improve the quality of foreign languages education in Vietnam, and the project has been implemented for 2 phases, from 2008 up to 2016, and from 2017 to 2025, and I'm in just the second phases of the project. And in order to improve the quality of foreign languages education in Vietnam, we have implemented a number of activities relating to foreign languages teaching curricula and materials development, assessment and testing, teacher education and training, policy making, equipment improvement, and many other activities as well. And with the wish we implement for all levels, all the activities for all levels of education, from preschool to continuing education. You can see all the levels, all ages of learners. And with the wish to, by 2025, the Vietnamese students gonna have foreign languages competence as their advantages. Okay, and in order to do all those activities, a very important factor that we thought will play very important role is that it is the framework of references for foreign language competences, and with that we will refer to that framework to do all those activities that we have been doing for foreign languages education, improvement of the quality in Vietnam. Okay, and to say with you about the CEFR-VN, it was developed by NFLP experts based on the CEFR original, and which refer to the context of using foreign languages in Vietnam. And it was officially issued as the circular in 2014. And the CEFR-VN corresponded to the CEFR original, right? And you can see here, the CEFR-VN had 6 levels, from level 1 to level 6, and the, oh, sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah. Okay. So here are the different activities that we have implemented, and all the levels of education, from preschool to the continuing education, and with the ultimate final objective in 2025. And that is a very important factor that influence on those activities. Okay. Yes. And, okay, so we have the CEFR-VN. It created the CEFR-VN and issued in 2014, yeah, as a circular of the ministry, and corresponding to the CEFR original, with 6 levels corresponding to levels from A1 to C2, okay? And here, this is the adaptation process, and I would like to stress that the CEFR-VN is was designed to applicable to all the foreign languages in Vietnam, including English, French, German, Chinese, Korean, Japanese, and other foreign languages. But these are the 7 major foreign languages available right now in Vietnam in education system. And here is an example of the adaptation of the CEFR-VN for the English competences as the English foreign language competences. Okay, and we added 75 additional descriptors to the original descriptors of the CEFR-VN. Yeah, and you can see here 20 listening, 18 for reading, 12 for speaking, and 25 for writing, the descriptors. Okay. And assessment, so the CEFR-VN was used for teaching and learning, for designing teaching and learning programs, for standards setting and certification, and also for self-directed learning. And within the scope of this presentation, I just said with you about standards and certification only, okay? Okay, regarding the standards set, refer to the CEFR-VN. I would like to say with you about from different levels, from general education to continuing education, as you can see on the screen. For general education from K1 to K12, we have a national curriculum developed based on the CEFR-VN with the learning outcome for primary education is level A1 and level A2 for lower secondary education and level B1 for upper secondary education, and also for other languages as well. And right now, 7 foreign languages available for students to select, including English, French, Russian, German, Chinese, Japanese, and Korean. Okay. And for vocational and tertiary education, the learning outcomes range from level 2, A2 to level 5, B1. Okay. Of the level B2, level A1, A2 for the vocational schools, and level 3 for the non-English major students, level 4 for the students learning English as a medium of learning, teaching and learning, and level B1, level 5 for, this is the learning outcome of English major students. Okay. And also for the other languages as well in other schools, other universities and colleges and vocational schools in Vietnam. And for continuing education, that means here for job descriptions, for job requirements, not only for, as I said, for all the foreign languages. So the foreign languages competences are required by many different employers, including the government bodies. In 2019, the government of Vietnam issued a decision in which it requires all the public officers of Vietnam to obtain foreign language competences. For example, by 2030, they will have to get 60% of all the public officers of the central government need to obtain the B2 levels of foreign language proficiency. Yeah, and 72% of all the public officers of central levels of management positions should have this B2 levels of foreign languages proficiency. And for the local government, the provinces, 60% of all the public officers should have B2 levels. And for the and also for the lower levels of management, 30% of all the public officers will need to reach the B2 levels of foreign language proficiency. And you can see that although many different foreign languages are provided in Vietnam, but the number of English learners account for 99% of all the total foreign languages learners in Vietnam. Okay. And here, regarding the certification, in Vietnam, we developed tests, and the Moet Vietnam recognized and issued the tests as national test for Vietnam. And we currently have 5 tests, English tests of national scale. One is the V-STEP here means the Vietnam Standardized Test of English Proficiencies. And all those 5 tests developed by NFLP. And we have 5 tests. One is for levels, cross level from level B1 to level C1. The other is for level A2 for adult learners. And we have 3 tests for the schools, for the school students. We call them V-Step 1, V-Step 2, and V-Step 3 for schools. And also we have standardized tests for other languages as well. You can see here 6 other languages. We have cross-levels tests from level B1 to C1 and level 3 for schools. And we are going to publish those test formats in this year and the year after in 2024. And those English tests are available already in the forms of the decision of the MOAT. And in order to develop those tests, I stressed against that the development teams had to adapt the CEFR-VN to match with the specific requirements of the language, of the particular language. For example, like the Chinese and Japanese, they have certain characteristics that are different from other languages. So they need special descriptors. Yeah, okay. And here is the assessment design for Vietnam, for foreign languages education in general and English in particular. Yes. So because in overall, we are for CLT approach in foreign languages education. So the assessment in general was designed to apply the competencies-based assessment tools. And also, all the assessment activities are for learning. We are for such approach in assessment. And in more details, you can see here, we promote formative assessment. And nevertheless, proficiency testing and examination still very important. As you know that Vietnam is a country which has been very pro-testing since 1,000 years ago up to now. Okay, test exams all the times. And right now, we are promoting formative assessment. But still, you see, examinations is important, and sometimes examinations still play the roles of formative assessment in the way that the results of exams can help, can support the learning, teaching and learning process. Okay. So you can see here, I will say with you later about the assessment design for general education and post-secondary education. Firstly, it is for general education. So for the MOAT of Vietnam issued the guidelines for assessment for all levels of all grades of K-12 education. And in 2 circulars, circulars number 27 in 2022 for primary education, and circular number 27 for primary education, and circular 22 for secondary education. And when they are in the forms of circulars, they are legal documents. Okay? And those teachers in all the countries have to follow those guidelines, such guidelines. And in there, we are for, as I mentioned, we are for assessment for learning and promote formative assessment. So that's why we, NFLP, together, we invited the Cambridge experts to come to help us in designing the guidelines and manuals for formative assessment practice in Vietnam for the teachers in Vietnam. And we developed 3 sets of guidelines and 11, right? 11, 10, right? 10 sets of manuals for grade 3 to grade 12. Because from grade 3 to grade 12, foreign languages is compulsory. And for grade 1 and grade 2, foreign languages learning is a selective subject. Okay? And that is a formative assessment focus of the designs. Okay. And also there are proficiency tests that we used in the system as well. As I mentioned, MOS issued 5 testers. Okay, so among them, 3 are for schools, and these tests are used by the schools to test the language proficiency, English language proficiencies of the learners by grade 12, 9, and 5, before they enter the next levels of education. Okay. Here are the 5 covers of the Cambridge Formative Assessment Guidelines and Manuals series that we had. And we are very proud of these products. And the teachers in Vietnam in this year are going to reserve the products for use. Okay. Let me share with you about a little bit more detail about those books. So about the guidelines, formative assessment guidelines for primary education from grade 3 to grade 5, one book. The other 2 books are for grade 6 to 9 and 10 to 12. So the 3 books include 7 main parts and have more than 40 pages in length, and were written in B1 English proficiency level, and they are teacher-friendly as well. And they address the teachers directly. They set out the main concepts, including what is formative assessment, planning formative assessment, building a growth mindset in learners, reflective practice for the readings and useful websites and glossary as well. And also link with official circulars issued by the MOAT Vietnam. Okay. And the guidelines highlight teachers' agency in supporting learners and helping them reach their potential, including creating a positive learning environment, and encourage teachers to think about their practice critically and become more reflective. And the manuals, the 10 manuals for grade 3 to 12, one manual for each grade, okay, and each manual includes 9 main parts and has approximately 80 pages in length, yes, and written in B1 levels, English B1 level, and lower, and teacher-friendly, and address the teachers directly, the same like the guidelines. And they briefly and simply review essential concepts covered in the guidelines. And they provide practical, context-specific suggestions and tips for implementing those concepts. Okay. And the examples used in those manuals are from the textbooks available in Vietnam right now. Okay. And to compare the guidelines and manuals, there are certain similarities and differences. However, both documents are easy to read, because the English teachers in Vietnam are required to have a B2 levels of English proficiency, and for teachers grade 1 to grade 9, and C1 levels of English proficiency for grade 10 to 12 for teachers of those grades. And very important, these documents are more effective in reading and doing together. So we are promoting COPs among teachers across Vietnam. And right now the COP practice are very popular, common, and all teachers are very familiar to form, to do together in the forms of communities of practice. Okay. And for post-secondary education, as you can see here, okay, the schools, the universities are more autonomous. They can decide their own teaching contents and assessment as well. However, the NFLP developed and introduced to the institutions, universities, and schools a set of guidelines so that they can do their own assessment for English language teaching at the universities. And besides the assessment activities, formative or summative assessment for learning that I mentioned, there are also tests. Yes, the proficiency test is available. That is the proficiency test. There's A2 and the B1 to C1 levels of English proficiency available for the students to take. And also, we welcome the international tests. And we have the Circular No.11 issued in 2022 by the Ministry of Education and Training, in which we stipulate, the MOAC stipulates some of the requirements for the international tests to be accessible in Vietnam, okay, to the Vietnamese test takers. Okay. And let me pause by sharing with you a little bit about the assessment guidelines that the NFRP developed and introduced to the universities in Vietnam for assessment practice. Here are the 5 stages of assessment procedures. And it is an adaptation of the test development cycle introduced in the Auntie Manual of Language Test Development published in 2011. Yes. And you can see the 5 stages. And if in the manual, it is used for testing only, in here we introduced the procedures for all the assessment tools, all the assessment instruments, for example, for portfolio assessment or peer assessment or project-based assessment, for example. All of them will need to, when we applied all those assessment tools, the teachers will need to go through those 5 sub-stages. For the first stage is the planning and designing. After this stage, we will have the test format, or can say the assessment type or assessment tools, and the specifications. We have specifications for not only test, but also other forms of assessment, other types of assessments. And then when we have the format, have the specifications, we go through the development stage. And then we have the instruments. And when the instruments in practice are delivered, we have the performance, actual performance of assessment. And then with the assessment, the actual performance of assessment, actual application of assessment in the classes, we can have the results, right? The results of assessment, and how the results of assessment are informed to the learners is also an art, right? And also we have instruction to the teachers on how to give assessment feedback to learners, okay? And also we will go through reviewing and monitoring. So that's the final stage. All those activities are reviewed and monitored to make sure that we can revive or the assessment format or specification or the development of the instrument if necessary. Okay, to make sure that we are following the common best practice in assessment and testing with the ultimate approaches is assessment should be for learning, so for the purposes of improving the quality of teaching and learning for English as the schools. Okay, that's all of my presentation. This is the conclusion, but that's the end of my presentation, right? And thank you very much for your listening to my presentation. And if you have questions, please contact me via this email address or right here, right now. Thank you very much. Yes.